We've been talking about Trump, DeSantis, Biden, Harris, 2024, but what about this year's midterms? The conventional wisdom had been that Democrats are just going to get shellacked. But Real Clear Politics shows that in a generic congressional vote, Republicans are less than 2 points ahead of Democrats. The gap closing for Democrats. It was 3 points just a month ago. New York Times Siena poll this week found that 41% of people surveyed favored Democratic control of Congress, with 40% favoring Republican control, 19% said other. The polls also found that fewer than half of Republicans, 49%, preferred former President Trump as their candidate for 2024. But a sizable majority of Democrats, 64%, would prefer different candidates other than Biden at the top of the ticket in 2024. So all those numbers, though, don't really tell us what's going to happen in the midterms. Who we'd prefer generally as a Republican or a Democrat, that's not going to determine the outcome. The latest Real Clear Politics map shows Republicans with a slight edge in the Senate, 47 to 46, with 7 toss-ups. But a sizable majority of Democrats, 64%, we just said, would prefer Biden. So here is where the numbers stand as of tonight for the midterms. The polling group 538 says the Senate's a toss-up, but suggests Republicans have a small edge, winning 53% of sample outcomes to Democrats' 47%, quite similar to the Real Clear Politics numbers. The Democrats are closing the gap, though. Republicans were favored 59 to 41 as of June 14th. Some of the tight races that will decide control of the Senate include the Georgia race between incumbent Democrat Raphael Warnock and his Republican opponent Herschel Walker. The Real Clear Politics average has Warnock up by less than 3 points. In Ohio, the latest poll shows Republican J.D. Vance with a 3-point lead over Democrat Tim Ryan. But the House doesn't look to be nearly as tight. 538 favors Republicans to win in 87% of its models to Democrats' 13, and that's actually been holding pretty steady over the past month. Real Clear Politics says Republicans are favored to win 223 House seats this November. Remember, you need 218 for a majority, so even if Democrats hold on to the seats they're favored to win, and they take all the toss-ups, Republicans would still be in control of the House. Joining me again to break it all down is Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of Real Clear Politics. Tom, thanks for coming back. So have the numbers moved at all in the wake of Roe v. Wade being overturned, the disclosures from the January 6th investigation, et cetera?
Well, as you mentioned, the generic ballot has closed in the Democrats' favor by about 1.5 points over the last few weeks, which is a positive sign for them. And also, they have gotten some decent polling. You mentioned this new poll that came out in Georgia showing Warnock ahead. There was a poll out in Nevada where Cortez Masto is up 3 points over Adam Laxalt. So fairly decent polling for the Democrats in some very tough races. I think the environment has shifted a little bit in their favor post the fall of Roe v. Wade. And the question is, we're still in the middle of summer, so there are a lot of voters out there who are on vacation who really won't be tuning in until after Labor Day. And the question is whether Democrats can continue that momentum or whether it fades and is basically subsumed by the omnipresent overriding election issue this year, which is the economy, which is inflation, which is gas prices.
Does a generic ballot matter? I mean, when people are asked, well, hypothetically, would you rather have a Democrat or a Republican? I would think that that's sort of irrelevant compared to who is your member of Congress, who is your senator, and who you're going to vote for. Why does it matter, the generic ballots?
It gives you a general sense of where the parties are and as they're viewed by the public. Again, in some of these races, we still have a couple of primaries coming up. But eventually, as we're getting to the end of primary season, so we actually do have candidates, and candidates do matter. I mean, they certainly do. Money's going to factor into this as well. But as far as if you look at sort of the macro picture, Dan, if you look at presidential job approval rating, which is a big indicator of election outcomes, particularly in midterms. If you look at the right track, wrong track, the number of people who think the country is headed in the wrong direction is over 75% now. And if you look at, inflation and gas prices, I mean, those are the things that are really going to, that's the landscape, the backdrop against which these candidates are making their case to their particular voters. And in some cases, there might be Republican candidates who got nominated who will not be able to get across the finish line, even in a very good Republican year. And there will be other cases in states where even a lackluster or a subpar candidate will still end up winning the day just because the environment is so favorable to Republicans right now.
Could Donald Trump entering the race before the midterms really help Democrats a lot?
It's possible. I mean, it's one of those things we haven't, if you look back, there hasn't been anything that's really changed the political dynamic. It has, Supreme Court nomination, war in Ukraine, the fall of Roe v. Wade has changed it a bit on the margins. Could Donald Trump, it would certainly be a shock to the system, and it's hard to say, how that might affect individual races around the country. Is it likely to change the overall dynamic? Probably not. I don't think there's no upside for Donald Trump to do this. He can simply wait his time and then take credit. If Republicans win the House and or the Senate, he can take credit then. I'm not sure he's going to want to get involved ahead of time and risk if things don't go the Republicans' way, then he'll be blamed for that. So there's really no upside for him to do that. And I think a lot of Republicans would rather see him sit out until after the midterms.
Oh, I know a lot of Republicans would like to see him sit out. That's a separate question from whether he's going to sit out. Because I think part of his strategy is to try to prevent other Republicans from entering the race.
Well, I think he's got time to do that, after the election. And again, if he jumps into this beforehand, he could scramble some of these races. I mean, he's actually, he has had some losses in terms of the endorsement game, but a lot of his endorsements, he's gotten the candidate that he wants, that he endorsed. And so if those candidates go on to win in November, he'll be able to take credit for that, in the end.
We shall see. Tom Bevan, thank you. Always read Real Clear Politics. I'm obsessed with it every time gets around election season. I'm updating numerous times a day. Thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.